Today's question is really simple. Can a cheap vacuum cleaner be a good vacuum cleaner? If you watch my videos, you might have noticed that I've tried out a ton of stick vacuums already, and today I have to try out another one. Honestly, these extensive tests will be pretty boring by now, but the Jigoo C200 really caught my attention, because it offers relatively good and impressive features for a relatively low and affordable price, and that's still something truly worth being interested in and considering. At least, it definitely caught my interest. Jigoo is a company from which I already have a household appliance at home, specifically a mattress vacuum cleaner, a mite vacuum cleaner, and I'm extremely satisfied with that machine. So I became very curious to see what the cheaper one of the two new stick vacuums, the C200, can actually do in real life compared to the C500 and C200. On paper, let's just say it's not exactly impressive, but it's not weak either in terms of suction power, battery life, and all sorts of other features. It falls somewhere in the mid-range. In return, they don't ask much for it. So, in today's video, we'll go through the usual things. First, we'll look at the accessories, then we'll check out the vacuum cleaner itself, I'll go over the specifications, and at the end, I'll tell you what it was like to use. Let's get started. We get a few accessories, but not too many, and I'll be able to show each of them to you here one by one. The very first thing that is definitely worth looking at is the wall mount, which isn't particularly large or imposing, but I definitely want to point out that it conveniently has two electrical contacts, which fundamentally means you can easily charge the vacuum cleaner through it. So you screw it onto the wall with two screws, and then you hang the vacuum cleaner on it. You don't have to keep plugging the cable into the back of the vacuum cleaner, it can charge through the wall mount. You just plug the charging cable into the bottom here, and that's it. Everything's sorted. Another great feature of the wall mount is that you can also store the accessories on it. It's super simple and really convenient. All you have to do is simply snap the two accessories in right here and right here. And you can clearly see that the accessories are securely right there on the wall mount, so you absolutely don't have to search for them, and they certainly won't get lost. Everything you might need for cleaning is always right at hand. The very next thing that I really need to show you is the small little bristle brush. Well, this little bristle brush isn't really a big deal, and it doesn't seem to be of very high quality, either it feels a bit like cheap plastic. The buttons on it also move a bit stiffly. So if the manufacturer cut costs anywhere, it was definitely on this brush. But maybe that's the lesser problem. It would be a much bigger issue if they had cut costs on the machine itself. So let's just say that this brush does its job for what it was designed for. It's fine, it's usable. In fact, apart from this adjustable head, there are no moving parts, so it's unlikely to break down or snap. I've seen better ones before. Let's just leave it at that. Next up is this crevice tool. I could say exactly the same things about the crevice tool as I did about the small brush attachment. So the plastic is, well, not exactly the best quality. You can see some welding seams, the button doesn't move very smoothly, but honestly there's nothing really wrong with it. So it does the job it was designed for. You can use it to vacuum dirt out of crevices. This one also has no moving parts, so chances are it won't break either. At most, the cost cutting the manufacturer did on this nozzle might just be a bit of an eyesore. Next up is the telescopic tube, which in my opinion turned out really well. It looks very nice. It feels like a metal tube, although these days I often come across plastic tubes that look very much like metal. By feel, grip, and weight, this is probably actually made of metal, with some plastic parts, which is definitely a plus. The ratchet mechanism inside also moves very smoothly. As you can see, the length of the tube is adjustable. It stands firmly and securely in place, so you can easily adjust the tube length to your personal height, making it comfortable to use for thorough cleaning tasks, and you can also readily reach higher places, like if you want to vacuum the very tops of shelves and similar elevated spots. So I'm absolutely satisfied with this tube. You can't really see any cost cutting here either. If you look at the plastics, you can see that this one is kind of matte, while this one is shiny. And just by touch, by feel, by quality, this is a completely different material than the other one. So on this tube, I really can't find any signs of cost cutting anymore. This is a really good piece. Last up is the impressive motorized brush. The motorized brush itself looks really good. It's clearly made from very high quality and durable materials. Even the small tactile buttons on it are really nice to the touch. It has the same kind of flexible hose as all the other vacuum cleaners like this, so you can easily get it under cabinets and into all sorts of places. It has nice large rubber wheels that won't get stuck, and the roller brush they've built in also seems really good. What's interesting about this is that it alternates between relatively soft, bristled V-shaped sections and V-shaped rubber blades inside. And these blades are what will direct the dirt into the suction head, into the suction tube. I'd like to draw your attention to the fact that this head also has these comb-like teeth, which serve to. You can see it better here. Here too, there are these comb-like teeth, which are specifically designed to effectively strip off any hair and textile fibers that get wound around the roller brush. You can clearly see that the brush is spinning and it just barely touches this hair removing comb, and it neatly strips off the wound fibers and directs them here to the tube, so they ultimately end up in the container. I really like this brush. An interesting thing is that there is only one LED on it, extended with a small prism like this, which probably helps with cost saving. Since they didn't have to install 5 LEDs on, was more than enough. And from the tests, I already know that this single LED provides sufficient light, so I think the brush turned out well. This is another good piece, about the same quality as the suction tube. And now, let's move on to the vacuum cleaner. The vacuum cleaner is a bit more interesting because at first glance, my impression is definitely very positive. The materials are very good here as well, the assembly is excellent, nothing creaks or rattles. This top part looks really nice, which is actually just a design element, because the motor is inside here behind it, and the battery is placed back here in this section. This battery also looks really good. You can see this is also designed. This is an absolutely good looking piece. So at first glance, I have to say that this vacuum cleaner is a really great piece. It looks very good, the design is excellent, the assembly is great, and the materials are top notch. It's a very clever idea, at least at first glance, that the display is on the back of the battery, which lights up when you turn on the machine. It doesn't actually do much else, it simply indicates with a clear green or red light whether the vacuum is operating in its normal or more powerful turbo mode. It also clearly shows the current battery level and provides a helpful notification if the dust container becomes completely full. That's pretty much all it does. It has 2 buttons, one to turn it on and the other to adjust the suction power, as I mentioned, in 2 levels. So at first this seems like a really great and useful feature, but I do have one significant complaint. The manufacturer prominently highlights as a big and distinct advantage that you can easily buy a second battery for it, or readily get a replacement if, God forbid, this one unfortunately breaks. And that's great, because the battery can be swapped without any disassembly. However, putting the display on the battery will definitely increase the cost of the battery. So from this perspective, it's actually not so ideal that they've put the buttons and everything else on the battery, because if you need to buy a second battery, you'll have to pay for all of these again. You win some, you lose some. The design looks good, but I still have to say it feels a bit like a waste of money. And now comes the part I really don't like about this machine, and that's the dust container. Because this dust container is not removable. It opens with a button just like all the other similar machines. You press this and you can open the dust container. However, the big problem is that it can't be removed. The filter inside can be taken out with a half turn, and it's located right behind here. Maybe you can see what I'm trying to show. These are the 3 tiny little tabs you can see inside here. These hold the filter in place, and to me they seem very, very fragile. I think a stronger solution would have been necessary here. Because now when I tried it out, of course this held it in place, there was no problem, but I can imagine that after many years of use, these plastic tabs will wear out, weaken and break off, and if they do break, it will be a rather costly repair. It probably won't even be worth repairing. Apart from the unusual cyclone system that swirls the air, the vacuum cleaner has a 5-layer filtration system. Inside the dustbin, you'll find a HEPA filter, a foam filter, And here inside are these tubes, as well as a robust steel filter. So it has a comprehensive 5-layer filtration system meticulously designed to effectively separate incoming dirt from clean air, ensuring that only clean air comes out at the very top of the vacuum cleaner. From this perspective, I have no complaints about the machine, since a 5-layer system is considered absolutely acceptable these days. In fact, many cheaper machines only have 3 or 4 layers. So the 5 layers definitely deserve a gold star. However, no gold star for those tabs I showed inside, because in my opinion they are a relatively weak solution, or at least they seem weak to me. On the other hand, the tab that holds the bottom of the tank is strong and stable. It's not like with prosthetic vacuums where this part usually breaks. So yeah, well, not everything can be perfect, let's leave it at that. Now that we've gotten to know the machine itself, let's take a look at the accessories, and I'll say a few more words about the specifications. What's very important is that the suction power is 23,000 pascals, so you get 23 kilopascals. And also very important, according to the manufacturer, the battery life is 15 minutes in turbo mode and 40 minutes in normal mode. Now comes the part about what it was like to use the vacuum cleaner. Of course, I tested everything as I usually do. I vacuumed up soup pearls as large debris, rice as small debris, and flour as dust. In addition, I checked how long the actual runtime is in turbo mode, and I also looked at the noise produced by the vacuum cleaner. The good news regarding the latter is that the manufacturer is not deceiving. So the noise level they promise is accurate. Though that's only normal mode. If you switch to turbo mode, the volume increases by 10 decibels, which can get a bit annoying. There's no issue with the battery runtime either. In normal mode, instead of 40 minutes, I measured about 36 minutes. But in turbo mode, instead of the specified 15 minutes, I measured over 16 minutes. There was absolutely no problem with the suction power. The vacuum cleaner passed all 3 tests. As usual, the only problem was that larger debris like the soup pearls wouldn't fit under the head, so I had to lift the head a bit to be able to vacuum them up. The filter system is also important for the machine, and it performed very well too. It performed so well that all the dirt stayed in the container. I removed the filter. Even the top of the tube system inside the filter was completely clean, so the dirt didn't even reach the sponge. In fact, it didn't even get to the top of the filter system. So we can safely say that the 5-layer filtration system in this vacuum cleaner performed excellently. So what's the main point with this machine? With the Jigoo tool, the point is that you get it for 40,000 forints, which I think is a really good price. For 40,000 forints, you get a decent basic machine with a decent battery capacity, decent suction power, and some minor issues related to the dust container. You get a very good quality motorized brush, a very good quality tube, and not so great quality but practical wall mount, and these two, well, let's say slightly lower quality accessories. In my opinion, for 40,000 forints, this package is not bad. The machine does what it promises. The manufacturer did not lie about either the noise level or the cleaning time achievable on a single charge. Again, I consider these to be positives. It looks good, and they don't ask much for it. So if this level of performance and these features are enough for you, then in my opinion, you can confidently buy this machine as well. It's definitely worth the 40,000 forints. Well, that's all for today. I'll wrap up this test here. Be good, take care of yourselves, and I'll be back soon with another review. In the meantime, subscribe to the channel. Take care and goodbye.